Chosen one, have you felt it lately? A strange shift in your life, a distance growing between you and someone who once felt deeply connected to your journey. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel heavy. Their presence feels different. Something inside your spirit keeps whispering that a change is happening. This is not random. If you are watching this right now, there is a reason. Many people will scroll past this message, but something made you stop. Something made you listen. And that may be because this message is meant for you. Because right now, something significant is unfolding in your life. God is removing someone, not next month, not sometime in the distant future. The process has already begun. For many chosen ones, one of the most confusing seasons in life is when God begins separating them from certain people. At first, it doesn't make sense. You might wonder why someone suddenly becomes distant. Why the connection starts breaking down. Why misunderstandings appear where peace once lived. But here is the truth that many chosen ones eventually discover. Before God elevates you, he separates you. Throughout the Bible, those who were chosen by God often experienced seasons where people were removed from their lives. Not because they were cruel, not because they were unlovable, but because their assignment required a different environment. And the same thing happens today. When God prepares a chosen one for a new level, he begins to rearrange the people around them. Some relationships were meant only for a chapter, not the entire story. And the reason this moment feels uncomfortable is because separation is rarely easy. Even when someone is not meant for your future, your heart may still remember the past. But God sees something you cannot see yet. He sees where you are going. He sees the purpose that has been placed on your life. He sees the calling that is growing inside you, and he also sees who can walk with you into that future, and who cannot. That is why sometimes God removes people quietly. The connection fades, the communication slows down, the alignment disappears. It is not punishment, it is protection. And if this message is resonating with you so far, take a moment right now and support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. It helps these messages reach other chosen ones who may be going through the same spiritual transition you are experiencing. Also, if this message touches your spirit and you feel guided to support the channel further, you can use the super thanks button below the video. Your support truly helps this mission continue, reaching people who need encouragement during difficult seasons. Now here is something important you need to understand. Chosen ones are not called to walk the same path as everyone else. Their journey is different. Their calling is different. And because their destiny is different, their relationships will also be different. There are moments when God brings people into your life to help you grow. They teach lessons. They walk beside you during certain seasons. But once that lesson is complete, God begins to move things, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly, and sometimes in ways that feel painful at first. But what feels like loss may actually be divine alignment, because God is not just removing someone, he is making room for what comes next. For many chosen ones, the hardest part about God removing someone from their life is the confusion that follows. Your heart asks questions your mind cannot immediately answer. Why now? Why this person? Why did the connection suddenly change? But what most chosen ones eventually realize is something powerful. When God removes someone from your life, it is rarely about rejection. More often it is about protection from something you could not yet see. The truth is, God sees the entire path of your life. While we can only see the present moment, God sees every consequence, every hidden intention, every future crossroads that lies ahead. And when someone's presence begins to threaten the direction of your calling, God intervenes, not out of anger, but out of love. Many people assume that when a relationship ends or a connection fades, it means something went wrong. But for chosen ones, separation is often a sign that something is going right. Because the closer you move toward your purpose, the more precise your environment must become. Think about this for a moment. In the Bible, many of God's chosen servants had to experience separation before stepping fully into their assignment. One powerful example is Abraham. When God called Abraham, one of the first instructions was to leave his homeland and the familiar people around him. God was guiding him toward a promise, but the journey required distance from the environment that once defined his life. That pattern has not changed. Sometimes people are removed because they cannot understand the direction God is leading you. Other times they may unintentionally slow down your spiritual growth. And in some cases, They may even carry energies, mindsets, or behaviors that could quietly pull you away from your calling. God sees all of this long before you do. This is why chosen ones often notice a strange pattern in their lives. Just when they begin growing spiritually, certain relationships begin shifting. Suddenly the conversations feel different. The support disappears, the bond weakens, and you may start wondering if you did something wrong. But many times nothing is wrong. In fact, God may simply be repositioning you. The painful truth is that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some people arrive to teach a lesson. Some arrive to walk beside you during a season of growth. And some arrive to reveal something about yourself that you needed to understand. Once that purpose is complete, God allows the connection to fade. And while this can feel painful, there is a deeper spiritual reason behind it. Your destiny requires space. Space to grow. Space to hear God clearly. Space to step into the person you were meant to become. If certain people remained in your life, their influence could slowly redirect your focus, dilute your faith, or distract you from your mission. So God begins clearing the path, not to harm you, but to guard what He placed inside you. Chosen ones are carriers of purpose, and purpose attracts resistance. Sometimes that resistance appears through circumstances. Other times, it appears through people who unknowingly pull you away from the very path God designed for you. That is why separation, though painful, is often a sign that God is actively guiding your life. He is removing what no longer aligns with where you are going. One of the most painful truths chosen ones must face is this. Sometimes the person God removes from your life is someone you genuinely loved. Not every separation happens because of betrayal or conflict. Sometimes there was real care, real memories, real connection. That is what makes the moment of separation so confusing. You may sit there asking yourself, if nothing terrible happened, why is this relationship falling apart? The answer often lies in something deeper than emotions. It lies in purpose. Chosen ones carry a unique spiritual assignment. Their lives are not simply about comfort or companionship. Their journey is often tied to a calling that stretches beyond what most people can understand. And when two people have different spiritual assignments, their paths may eventually begin moving in different directions. This does not mean either person is bad. It simply means their destinies are not aligned. In the Bible, we see an example of how different assignments can create separation, even when love and loyalty once existed. Consider the story of David and King Saul. At one time, David served Saul faithfully. He played music to calm Saul's troubled spirit. He fought battles for the kingdom. He honored Saul's authority. But eventually something changed. As David's destiny began to unfold, Saul became increasingly uncomfortable with the calling on David's life. The very presence that once helped the kingdom began to trigger jealousy and fear within Saul. David had done nothing wrong, yet the relationship could not remain the same. Why? Because David's future was moving toward kingship, and Saul's season was coming to an end. Their assignments were no longer aligned. Many chosen ones experience a similar situation in modern life. The relationship may begin with harmony, shared goals, and mutual support. But as your spiritual awareness grows and your calling becomes clearer, the alignment slowly begins to shift. Suddenly, the person who once understood you no longer recognizes the person you are becoming. Your priorities change, your focus deepens, your faith becomes stronger, and the connection that once felt natural begins to feel strained. This is often the moment when God begins allowing distance to grow, not because love never existed, but because the direction of your life is changing. The difficult truth is that some people are meant for the earlier chapters of your story, not the chapters where your destiny fully unfolds. And God knows this long before you do. Sometimes He allows the separation to happen slowly so your heart can process the transition. Other times it happens suddenly because the next phase of your journey cannot wait. Either way, God is guiding the process. Chosen ones often try to hold on longer than they should because their hearts remember the good moments. They remember the laughter, the trust, the shared dreams. But purpose moves forward, and when your destiny begins calling you into deeper spiritual territory, not everyone will be able to walk beside you. This is not cruelty. This is alignment. There is something many chosen ones do not recognize until much later in their journey. Not every relationship that feels familiar is healthy for your spirit. Some people do not openly harm you. They do not attack you. They may even appear supportive on the surface. Yet somehow, whenever you spend time with them, you leave feeling exhausted. mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Your energy feels heavy. Your clarity disappears. Your motivation weakens. And the strange part is, you cannot always explain why. This is one of the quiet ways spiritual draining can occur. Chosen ones are often naturally compassionate people. They care deeply. They listen. They give encouragement. They try to help others grow. But this compassionate nature can also attract individuals who unknowingly feed off that strength. Without realizing it, the chosen one becomes the emotional support system for everyone around them. They carry other people's worries. They absorb other people's negativity. They constantly pour out energy, but rarely receive the same level of support in return. Over time, this imbalance begins to weaken their spirit. That is why, when God prepares a chosen one for a new season, one of the first things he does is protect their spiritual energy. He begins removing people who continuously drain it, not because those people are evil, but because the chosen one needs their strength for something greater. A powerful example of this kind of spiritual protection can be seen in the life of Jesus Christ. Throughout his ministry, large crowds constantly surrounded him. Many people sought healing, guidance, and miracles. Yet even in the middle of that mission, Jesus often withdrew from certain environments. He stepped away from the crowds. He separated himself from the noise. He went into quiet places to reconnect with God. Why? Because spiritual work requires spiritual strength. Even the most compassionate soul must protect their energy in order to continue their assignment. Chosen ones today face a similar challenge. They may find themselves surrounded by people who constantly take advice, emotional support, encouragement, while rarely offering peace in return. Over time, that pattern becomes exhausting. The chosen one begins feeling spiritually depleted. Prayer feels harder, focus becomes weaker. Their inner peace starts fading. This is often when God begins stepping in. He allows distance to grow between you and the people who are quietly draining your strength. Suddenly, the constant communication stops. Plans stop happening. The relationship slowly fades. At first, this may feel confusing or even painful. But what many chosen ones eventually realize is that their spirit begins to recover during that separation. Their mind becomes clearer. Their energy returns. Their connection with God becomes stronger again. It is not coincidence, it is restoration. God knows that the mission placed on your life requires focus, peace, and spiritual clarity. And if certain relationships constantly disrupt that balance, He will gently begin moving them out of your daily path, not to punish them, but to protect you, because chosen ones cannot fulfill their purpose if their spirit is constantly drained. There comes a moment in the journey of many chosen ones when everything begins to shift. For a long time, life may have felt like a season of preparation. You endured challenges that others did not understand. You faced delays, disappointments, and moments where you questioned why your path seemed so difficult. But those seasons were not wasted. They were shaping you. God was building your character, strengthening your faith, and preparing your spirit for something greater. And as this preparation reaches its completion, a new season begins to approach. A season where doors begin opening, opportunities appear, favor begins to flow in ways you did not expect. Yet here is something many chosen ones do not realize until it happens. Before those blessings fully arrive, God often removes certain people from your life. Not everyone is meant to witness what God is about to do for you. Not everyone is meant to share the environment of your next season. This may sound difficult to accept, but the truth is that some people were only meant to walk with you during your time of preparation, not your time of elevation. There is a powerful example of this principle in the Bible through the story of Joseph. Joseph was given a divine dream early in his life. God showed him visions of leadership and influence. But when Joseph shared that dream with his brothers, their hearts were filled with jealousy. Instead of celebrating his future, they rejected him. They sold him into slavery and attempted to erase the destiny God had shown him. But what they could not stop was God's plan. Joseph endured years of hardship. He faced betrayal, imprisonment, and long seasons where it seemed like his life had been completely derailed. Yet behind the scenes, God was positioning him for a role far greater than he could have imagined. Eventually, Joseph rose to a position of immense authority in Egypt. The same man who had once been rejected by those closest to him became the one who would later save nations from famine, Now imagine something important. What if those same brothers who betrayed Joseph had remained beside him during his rise to power? What if the same jealousy and resentment had followed him into the palace? God knew exactly what he was doing when he allowed those relationships to break. Sometimes distance is necessary so that destiny can unfold without interference. Chosen ones today experience something very similar. There are people who may genuinely care about you, but their mindset is not prepared for the level God is bringing you into. Your growth may challenge their comfort. Your blessings may trigger their insecurities. Your transformation may remind them of paths they never chose to pursue. God sees these things long before you do. So before the doors open, before the opportunities arrive, before your life shifts into a higher level, God quietly begins clearing the space around you. He removes the people who would struggle to celebrate your elevation. He removes the voices that might plant doubt in your mind. He removes the connections that could disturb the peace required for your next chapter. At first, it can feel lonely. You may notice that your circle becomes smaller, but what chosen ones eventually understand is this. A smaller circle often creates a stronger foundation, because the people who remain are the ones who can genuinely support where God is taking you. There are moments in the journey of a chosen one when everything seems almost ready to change. You feel it in your spirit. The season of waiting feels like it is coming to an end. The lessons you struggled through are finally making sense. Your faith feels stronger than it used to be. Your mindset has shifted. You have grown in ways you never expected. Yet something still feels blocked. You pray. You seek clarity. You try to move forward, but it feels like an invisible wall is standing between you and the breakthrough you have been waiting for. Many chosen ones experience this stage, and what they later realize is something both surprising and difficult to accept. Sometimes the blockage was not a situation, sometimes it was a person. Not necessarily someone with bad intentions, not someone openly trying to harm you, but someone whose presence, influence, or expectations were quietly keeping you from stepping fully into the path God had prepared for you. This happens more often than people realize. When you are deeply connected to someone, their opinions can shape your decisions. Their fears can become your hesitation. Their comfort zone can slowly become the boundary that limits your growth. You may start making choices based on what keeps the relationship stable rather than what moves your calling forward. Without realizing it, your destiny begins waiting for permission from someone who was never meant to guide your path. That is why in certain moments, God removes people right before a major breakthrough arrives. A powerful example of this can be seen in the story of Lot and Abraham. For a time, Abraham and Lot traveled together. They were family. They shared resources, land, and protection. But eventually, their growing communities created conflict among their people. The land could not support both groups in the same space. At that moment, Abraham made a decision. He allowed Lot to choose a different path so that their journeys could continue separately. This separation was not about hatred. It was about alignment. Shortly after that separation, God renewed his promises to Abraham and began expanding the territory that would eventually belong to him and his descendants. The breakthrough followed the separation. Chosen ones today often face a similar moment. There may be someone in your life whose presence keeps you tied to an older version of yourself. Their expectations may hold you in a place that once felt comfortable, but no longer fits the person you are becoming. And as long as that connection remains unchanged, your breakthrough waits at the edge of your life, just out of reach. So God steps in, sometimes gently, sometimes suddenly, but always with purpose. The relationship begins shifting. Distance grows. Paths slowly move apart. And while it may feel confusing or painful in the moment, what is actually happening is something sacred. God is clearing the final obstacle before your next level begins. Because your breakthrough cannot fully arrive until you are standing in the environment designed for it. One of the most comforting truths for chosen ones to understand is this. Every removal has a purpose, and it is never random. When someone is taken out of your life, God is not just closing a door. He is making room for the right people, the ones who are meant to walk with you through the next season of your calling. This is why separation often feels heavy at first. You grieve, you question, and your heart may resist letting go. Yet, what you are experiencing is actually a form of divine preparation. Your life is being realigned so that every person who remains or enters Your path supports your purpose instead of distracting from it. Many chosen ones are naturally empathetic and deeply connected to the people around them. You tend to nurture, guide, and support those you love, often at the expense of your own peace. While this is a beautiful quality, it also makes it harder to recognize when someone is out of alignment with your spiritual path. God sees the bigger picture. He knows which relationships are necessary for your growth and which could slow your progress. He knows who will celebrate your victories without envy, who will offer wisdom without judgment, and who will strengthen your faith instead of questioning it. Consider the story of Moses. Before leading the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses experienced separation from the people and environment he once knew. He spent decades in the desert, away from family and community, learning patience, humility, and obedience. When he returned to fulfill his destiny, he was joined by those who could follow his guidance and align with the mission God had set before him. The people who were not aligned had naturally drifted away during the preparation phase. This pattern repeats throughout the lives of the chosen. The people who remain are not there by accident. They are divinely placed to support, encourage, and walk alongside you in your season of expansion. Their presence is meant to strengthen your resolve, enhance your growth, and help you fulfill the calling that has been placed upon your life. The lesson here is clear. When God removes someone, He is not punishing you or them. He is protecting your journey and your spiritual energy. He is clearing space for the connections that are truly meant to contribute to your purpose. It is also important to understand that these new alignments may not always look like what you expect. The people God brings into your life might challenge you, push you beyond your comfort zone, or speak truths that are hard to hear. But these individuals will never pull you away from your purpose. Instead, they will encourage your spiritual growth and walk with you through the unfolding of your destiny. So if you feel the emptiness of separation, do not despair. Trust that God is actively rearranging your life for your highest good. Every person who is removed makes space for someone who is meant to strengthen your spirit, support your calling, and walk beside you in the new chapter that is beginning. As a chosen one of the greatest spiritual challenges and blessings is learning to embrace the season of divine alignment. This is the moment when God has removed what no longer serves your purpose and is preparing you for the path that fulfills your destiny.